City Council is now in session. Please rise. We're having our Pledge of Allegiance by Councilman Frank.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
If everyone please silence their phones. We'll have our invocation by Reverend Don Miller.
Let's pray. Father, we're thankful for your lovely creation. Each day it's a mystery, it's a creation, it's a delightful. We never know, Father, what's going to happen each and every day. We praise you and give you glory for each and every day. Father, we're thankful for our health that allows us to come and meet together. We just pray, Father, for this meeting as they deliberate the situation here in our community. Father, there are many exciting things going on in our community, and I just pray, Father, that you'll bless every endeavor. And Father, especially this time, we would just like to bring up the River's Edge project to you, Steve Alexander and Harold Gordon and his committee, and Jessica and Daryl and all that's involved in that. Father, there's a lot of details that would need to be done. I just pray, Father, that every detail just can be ironed out in good time. And Father, we're so thankful for your Son, Jesus, Amen, who came into this world to provide for us an opportunity of eternal life. But also, Father, he gives us abundant life each and every day. And Father, may we enjoy each and every day. These things we ask in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, sir.
We'll have a roll call.
Councilman Bishop.
Present.
Councilman Nobby.
Here.
Councilwoman Montgomery.
Present.
Councilwoman Phillips.
Present.
Councilman Nutty. Councilwoman Durham.
Present.
Councilman Frank.
Here.
Okay, we have enough for a quorum. Go on down to, you have the minutes of the May 7th meeting of the council. Is there any additions or corrections? If none, I'll entertain a motion to accept them.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, I'm going to change the agenda around a little tonight. I'm going to move item D to last because I think there will be some discussion. So I'm going to move it to the last. So we'll go ahead and start off with A, Community Development Block Grant for the paint company. Mike, is you going to talk to that or, okay.
I'm Neil Brook. I'm with my client Peter and Associates.
Okay. Would you like to come up?
Sure, thank you.
Just saw you a few days ago,
We
didn't you?
did. Good to see you again. Good evening. My name is Neil Brook, and I am a certified grant administrator with Klein Peter Consulting Group. My client Peter wanted me to apologize that he was unavailable this evening. The purpose of the hearing tonight is to discuss the city's application for grant funding through the Indiana Office of Community and Rural Affairs. We are applying specifically for a wastewater drinking water grant in the amount of $600,000. The city will be contributing a local match of $820,000 from the Wastewater Investment Fund. The estimated budget for the project is $1,420,000. We have a proposal that is due this Friday, May 25th. Okra will review our proposal and determine if our project is eligible. A site visit will then be conducted in June. Our application is due July 20th, 2018. We want to make sure that the citizens of the city are fully informed and have the opportunity to voice any concerns or support for the project and ask any questions they may have. Funds available for wastewater drinking water program through Okra are limited and applications are very competitive. If the city is successful with their application, award announcements will be made in August. I will now turn this over to Steve Rubel, who will tell you about the project and what we are looking to accomplish.
Steve?
Thank you. Good evening, Council, Mayor. The study comes out of a 3 utility planning grant that was funded through the Office of Community and Rural Affairs. And what that did is that allowed us to review your stormwater, wastewater, and water utilities. And it basically resulted in this 362-page report. I'm going to kind of review what we had in the report, but I'm going to spare you all of the detail. If any of you are interested, I'm more than happy to provide you a copy of the report to read.
Thank you.
You gonna pass on that one, Dan? Okay. The report's comprised of 7 sections. It talks about project planning, the existing facilities, the need for projects, the alternatives that were considered for each project, a selection of alternatives, recommended alternatives, and then a short conclusions and recommendations section. Project planning part, the first part is basically background about your community, background about the utilities themselves. It talks about the purpose of the plan, the actual boundaries for each of your utilities, what areas you covered, what environmental resources are in the community. It talks about population trends. It talks about community engagement, which is part of what we're doing here tonight. It also has a list of abbreviations and acronyms that we as engineers love to use so much. The second part goes into detail about your existing facilities. So we took a detailed look at each of your water, wastewater, and stormwater utilities from an infrastructure standpoint, from an operations and maintenance standpoint, also from a financial standpoint. And that information is all contained in the report. The third section talks about the need for projects. That looks at health, sanitation, and security relative to each of your utilities. Takes a look again at your systems, operations, and maintenance. That portion talks about aging infrastructure. Every community has aging infrastructure and starts to age as soon as you put it in the ground. It also talks a little bit about reasonable growth and what we might expect to see for Connersville and your utility customers in the future. In the alternatives section, we considered alternatives for each of your utilities. So if you're going to make improvements to your utilities, what would you do? On the water side, we looked at a minimal rehabilitation both at the 9th Street and Park Road water treatment plants. We looked at the possibility of demolishing the 9th Street plant with a modern or a moderate rehab of the Park Road facility, a moderate rehab of the 9th Street and Park Road facilities, a major rehab of those 2 facilities, and then also a group of water main rehabilitation projects. So each of those have a section dedicated to them in the report. For the wastewater utility, we looked at a replacement of the paint company lift station, which is the ultimate project that comes out of the report. Improvements to the Water Street lift station, a stormwater separation for the Babe Ruth Sports Complex, and opportunities for wastewater treatment plant improvements. Then on the stormwater side, we looked at the potential moving forward with your 2008 long-term control plan and what it would take to implement all of the projects that are remaining in that long-term control plan. We looked at stormwater improvements on Memorial Drive. And also we looked at the possibility of constructing new combined sewer facilities near South 2nd Street with a wastewater storage that would go a little bit different route than your long-term control plan set up for right now. Section 5 is selection of alternatives. There we look at life cycle cost analysis and non-monetary factors, such as addressing current and future needs. Would the project do that if we move forward with any of these particular projects? We looked at high-risk infrastructure, so what happens if this piece of high-risk infrastructure goes bad and we need to replace it versus something over here that maybe we could repair ourselves, or the consequences of losing that piece of infrastructure aren't as high. And we also looked at environmental impacts. So for each of your utilities, Out of that alternatives analysis, we picked a proposed project based on feedback from several folks in your utilities, along with the information that was compiled in the report. And on the water side, the selection was the distribution system rehabilitation project, where we looked at rehabbing 5,000 feet of water main in the 10th Street, 30th Street, and EB Drive locations. That project will address some water loss issues that are happening in those areas right now, and the total cost of that project was about $1.22 million. On the wastewater side, that we've hit on already, the selection there was the Paint Company Lift Station project. That would construct a 1 million gallon per day lift station on the east side of Connersville, across the river from where it is now. It would include the installation of a new 8-inch force main underneath the river. It would include a standby diesel generator. It would also use energy efficient variable frequency drives for your pumps there to save money on energy costs. That project is about $1.42 million project. Then on the stormwater side, we looked a little deeper at the Memorial Drive storm sewer project. That project would install about 1,100 feet of 36-inch diameter storm sewer, 970 feet of 30-inch, 570 feet of 24-inch storm sewer, and that total project cost would come in about $1.65 million. The conclusions of the report, it's a very short section of the report. It just makes a general statement saying that we had this meeting and recommends that Connersville choose and proceed with a project to stay on top of your operations and maintenance. And the project that's been chosen to move forward with is the Paint Company Lift Station project. That is a very brief summary of the report. Mayor, I'd like to say thank you to your utility staff. They were very helpful, and we couldn't have done the job that we needed to do without them. I want to call out specifically Mike Bottomley, Brad Coulter, Bob Shoemaker was involved, Aaron Johnson, and Cindy Lunsford was very helpful on the financial side. So we appreciate everything that they did for the project.
Thank you for that comment.
Do you have an overall timeline for this when this is all going to be completed? And don't dig through that if you have to. That's fine. That's fine.
So if everything moves forward on the timelines that the grant administrator had mentioned, we'll find out about in August. So that'll give time for the development of the design for the project, basically over the winter months, get it going in the spring and have it built next year.
Mike, would you like to show them where it is on the Paint Company lift station and where?
Yeah, you should have, I gave you a cost, project cost, and also a map handed out right before the meeting. But the lift station, the existing lift station is located right here in this area, and we're going to end up moving it to this corner and run it to the other side of the river to our sewer department. So it'll be, I think that's John Street, right through here. So that'll be the new location. And we have right away. We have a sewer line that already runs through there. So,
What's the purpose of moving that?
the old lift station, lots of problems. It's very deep, 30 plus feet deep. This new one, I don't know, 8 to 10 feet.
I see.
Lots of problems with it, and it's a very important lift station. It's the only one for the east side, so if something happens to that, then the whole east side would be down. I believe we have a couple of staff that would like to talk a little bit about the lift station and some of the problems that they've had with it over the years.
It already crosses the river then?
Yes.
Okay. That was just my question.
Yeah, I was gonna.
Why cross the river if you don't have to? But
Okay, before they talk, should I open it up for public hearing or?
Yes.
Let me go ahead and close this meeting, and now that we'll have it for the public hearing. Is there anyone to speak for or against or anything?
Yeah, I want to speak
For?
for it because something's got to be done. It's a ticking time bomb over on that side of town.
I'm Scott Hood, and I've worked with the utilities here August, be 30 years. And we've patched it as much as it can be patched. And, you know, it's in your guys' hands to try to, you know, take care of this. And it's real important for all of them on the east side. I mean, like Mike and them said, you know, it handles the majority of it. So I definitely would highly recommend you try to, you know, go through with this. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Scott.
Thank you.
Thank you, Scott.
Would there be anyone else like to speak? If not, I'll close the public hearing, open up back to the council meeting. Council, you have any questions you'd like to ask?
Yeah, where exactly is this proposed site? I can't really read the map real well. Is that, what street's that at?
On your map, it would be,
It looks like
yeah,
there's,
right here. I think that's like John Street.
where, so what's this issue here?
No. That's back behind that.
Where's John Street?
What's this right
It's
here?
back here by Southern Style, back behind
I was
that.
gonna say, that's what it looks like.
On the other side of John Street.
Okay, so
I wish they would.
Here we go,
I'm
yes.
gonna switch it
John's
on.
the last one you can turn on.
That's existing. Right.
This is mine.
No, this is existing. This is where it's going, family style, somewhere over here. This is Parsley Street. I can't read it, but that's Parsley. Vine Street's somewhere right here. Right here's Vine Street.
Okay. I got it. I think
So
I
what's
got
at that
it.
location right now? Is this
Nothing.
nothing? Do we currently own that?
I was gonna say, is that ours?
We'll
Is
have
that
to
property
purchase- we'll
ours?
have to purchase. There is some right-of-way easement through there, but we will have to purchase some property.
How
Not a
much?
whole lot. I mean, I don't know yet.
Is that where close to where the state police post was,
It's across the street.
across the street? Okay, so
State police is
Well, so,
on the street.
so will that be on Vine or will it be on down the block from that?
then where was it on?
It's not on line at all.
So it
No,
will be back off
Yeah,
the,
it'll be off the
Behind.
road.
it's like 2 blocks back from Vine.
Yeah, if you blow it up, you just kind of,
just hard to get on that.
But there's be a block back from
So-
Vine.
yeah, right
Okay.
there, there, the corner.
So it's farm ground then right now?
Yes,
Have we spoke to the owner of that ground, Mike?
that's the next step.
You
We
know-
have talked to him in the past, but it's been a couple years ago.
Who's the owner?
I can't think of his name.
Bettina Rose.
Rose,
Which road?
Rose.
Which one?
The team.
Yeah, Bettina.
Bettina.
And most of these stations only take up about a 25 by 25 foot square area that usually is fenced off.
There's a lift station there at the corner of Waterloo and 30th, around in that area. That's about the size it would be.
Oh, yeah.
About right, Mike?
Yeah, I would assume so.
On the west side of Waterloo?
Is that-
Where's that?
So Mike, the big question is, how are we paying for this? Is it gonna affect rates?
No, this comes out of our investments.
Okay.
The Oak Grove grant will take care of $600,000 of it, and then it'll come out of our investment, the rest of it. That's why we chose this project, because we could afford doing it.
Right.
What's that leave us with, anything?
Yeah, it still leaves us with about $1 million,
Yeah.
$1.5 million.
That's good.
Contingent, you get the Oka grant though.
Contingent if we get the
If you
grant.
don't get the Oka grant, that money has.
What did you
Start
say
on
the
the
city's portion was again, the match?
I think we said 880,000.
I don't know if anybody mentioned, but I wanted to make sure that you knew that the station is 63 years old. Every time the guys get down in that and work on it,
Yeah.
we're doing this because the walls are starting to leak. I mean, there is some real, not to get into too much detail, but there's safety issues. What's the depth of that?
Like I said, it's about 32 feet.
Yeah. So they're 32 feet under the ground, everything's above them, a lot of piping. This new station will all be basically ground level. I mean, there'll be some
And there's
tanks
been times that
underground,
we've
but
had to go in there and unplug that pipe.
Well, we don't have grinder pumps,
Yeah.
like I said,
It was built with
This
tech,
weekend.
it was built with technology from the 50s.
That's what I'm saying.
And there's just so much easier way to do it. Part of the reason we chose that site was because we won't have to build a road to it or anything. It's right there on the alley and pretty much be able to pull right in there to it, so save us on building a street.
So will the other one be just demolished then? Or what's the plans for that?
It won't take much.
Well,
No,
Yeah, it'll just be filling in the hole basically. So.
Is that gonna be a hazmat problem when you do it?
I don't think so, not any more than that whole paint company site already is.
That's the first.
You know, that was the reason we started talking about moving it in the first place after the fire. We started thinking that wasn't the best place to have that. So
That's good to know.
it's just, it's totally unsafe conditions for them guys. We've been working on this since the day we walked into the office. This was probably top priority project, so it just takes a while to get to this point, and here we are, so.
Brad,
good.
as far as the east side goes, does that have anything to do with, will it tear up any of the roads that we're getting ready to pave or anything like
No,
that?
that's the other good thing. This site sits nearly right on top of the sewer. So they'll just have to connect into the sewer, and
That's good.
really the footprint of the project is not that big on this part.
You have to kill the old line?
No, we don't, it gets kind of tricky. It's still being engineered. We'd like to slip line the old line and use it to guide the new line, but we don't know for sure if that's possible yet. We're still working on it. But if that can happen, we won't even have to dig up the ground.
How do you feel about the individual that owns the property? Do you think they'll sell it to us?
He was open to it, but we spoke,
So you've talked to
years
him?
ago,
Okay,
yes.
okay, good. Thank you.
Is there any more questions? If not, I'd like to have a motion to approve this.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay.
Thank you, guys.
Is Amanda Falk here? I don't see her. Okay. We're going down to item D. Energy leasing financing option. Oh, that's no. Let's go down to E. So we're going down to E. Go ahead. Which would be the resolution 2018-30.
That the clerk can reimburse $198.99 to be appropriated to the police telephone and $11.63 to be appropriated to the first aid for uniforms.
Mr. Mayor, I move to accept pending resolution 2018-30.
Second.
We have a motion second to pass resolution 2018-30. Since we're getting money back, I'll just go ahead and say, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, thank you. Okay, I guess C and D is on you guys. C, solar energy contract.
So by way of introduction, come on up. We have present representatives of PSG Energy from Indianapolis. That's a solar company. We have Jennifer Merzlach and Jamie Krinsky. And then we also have present representing the company that could help us with the financing of this project. We have Damian Magos from George Baum Company. And you will have in your packets the solar energy contract, which is a very lengthy contract. And you also have a second set of documents from George Baum Company that's the financing information. So let's talk about those separately just briefly, and then you should ask the questions of these people. But the solar contract is called a guaranteed energy savings contract. Guaranteed meaning that they guarantee certain savings, and the system is monitored on a continual basis to document and prove those savings. That contract, I've read it 4 or 5 times, and proposed several different changes to it just to protect the city from a legal standpoint as far as indemnification and liability and what law applied and arbitration and things like that. All of those changes have been agreed to. And you might recall, it's probably been a month or more ago now, the Board of Works advertised for requests for proposals from energy savings companies. PSG Energy is the only company who responded to that request for proposals. And so that's why we've been dealing with them. And so the second part of information you have, as I said, is the financing end of it. The Board of Works, after some discussion today, authorized the mayor to execute the contract on behalf of the city if you approve going forward with the financing part of it, and that's why you're involved, because it involves finances. So you would be approving that. So if you have all reviewed any of that and you have a question about any of the legalities of the contract, I'd be happy to answer those questions. And as far as the technical part of the project, you might want to address those questions to Ms. Merzlack or Mr. Krinsky, and then any of the financial things Mr. Magos could address with you.
Thanks, Beth. So what I thought we'd do is just take a step back and talk about where we are and how we got here and what it is we're proposing to do.
That would be good.
Yeah, and so after that, I'll answer questions on the performance contract, the guarantee energy savings concept, and then I'd like to bring Damien up to walk through the financing at hand. As this really is, the concept here is this is an arbitrage. This whole project is born out of dollars that you're already spending. And so we take those dollars that you're spending at the utility and at the meter for your electricity, and we put in place a renewable, sustainable project that effectively pays for itself and offers a savings right away, as you'll see in a minute when we get there. But if I were to digress, this started a few months back. We asked Mr. Mayor for some time to talk about solar and some of the other good things that we've been doing across the state of Indiana with other cities and other public projects. And when we did that, we determined that there was an appetite to pursue such an endeavor. So then we started to look at the facilities. What are good candidates of the assets that the city has where we could look at putting a solar, an LED lighting project together as a hybrid to bring the consumption down and also to bring the savings forward. Again, more of a zero capital outlay. This is just a better way to spend the dollars you're currently spending. So these projects are iterative. They go through many design changes. We've come a long way from our first meetings with the mayor and many of the department heads. We've modified each of our designs so that they have met the muster of approval from those that we've asked approval from regarding the different departments across the city. And where we've ended up with, many of you have this bound document in front of you. I can make this copy available, but this kind of will tell you what we have. So we have 14 different projects. So this will all be in one contract, one financial contract, one guaranteed energy savings contract, but it'll be at 14 different facilities. And the first thing that we did is we looked at each of the facilities, we did a lighting on it. We said, okay, how can we drive the consumption down by way of the lighting? This is demand when you have lighting on. Is there a more efficient way to spend that energy? And we did. So we did a very technical and detailed evaluation of each of the facilities, looked at the lighting inside and outside, and evaluated what components we could put in that would give us long warranty. So many of the LED products today have 100,000 operating hour driver boards and greater than 10-year warranty. So it's a tremendous value in the market today, far less expensive than they were just a few years ago. It makes a really good play with solar energy to bring in the best price. So What we did is I'll just run through of the 14 projects. First one is the airport project. So we have a small little array on the southern part of the property. It's about a 52, the blue there, and I'll pass this around so you can all look at it when I'm done. But it's 52 kilowatts DC, and it's aimed for the energy consumed at that location, at that local facility. So that's that. We also looked at City Hall, a roof project, and then Fire Station 1, also a roof project. And again, we're not looking to aggregate some number other than what you're consuming at each of those meters. So we've done a detailed analysis through the last 12 months of bills of what you've consumed and how we could best offset that. Fire Station 3 and Fire Station 4 are also included. Fire Station 3 is about 15 kilowatts, Fire Station 4 is about 16, and we had to throw some on the ground there to cover what we couldn't get on the roof. Again, each of these have some level of LED application. Parks and Rec office, we were able to get some rooftop there. This is about 55 kilowatts, and we've met with the Parks Department pretty extensively as we've modified this design from where we started. Then we got Roberts Park. This is a big one. This is about 213 kilowatts. Rooftop, mostly rooftop. Street and sanitation, again another rooftop project. This is a little smaller, it's about 35 kilowatts. All of this, by the way, we would have done by the end of the year, so you would start to receive that benefit straight away. Utility headquarter on Ohio, and then again on Vine Street. Waste transfer, and then again at the water tower. And then I think lastly, we got the biggest one, and that's the water treatment plant. And we've worked with the staff has been, which we heard earlier, have been outstanding to work with, working through all the future concepts and planning and all of that. So when we started, it was really just a goal to get, not to a certain number, but just how much savings could we get. So we evaluated everything, and we looked at, again, different solar technologies, different lighting, different demand, shade applications. We're agnostic as a company. We're agnostic to the application. I've been doing this since 1992, so I've been doing it for a long time. And everything's always a little bit different. There's different challenges here in the city of Bloomington that we're just coming off of now, Bloomington, Indiana, where we did a very similar approach. Again, this will be one contract, so what we have presented to Beth, and she has presented to you all, is a guaranteed energy savings contract, which basically means we have an obligation to perform under the state statutes of a performance contract. So there's a bit of a mix of measure and verify and stipulation. So the way the contract reads is we've got to perform. Once we do so for a period of time, then it's stipulated that our project works, and you'll get the savings that you'll get that we've identified. We do an annual report. We offer that at the end of the year so that we can measure and verify our actual performance that yields the savings that we've identified in the contract. There are some other ancillary benefits that come into play as well. So the utility has a prescribed rebate for the LED lighting. That rebate will flow right back to the city. We'll do all the paperwork, we'll get it all put together. Once we get started on the contract, that gets submitted straight away. And usually it's a pretty fast turn, 6 or 8 weeks on the turnaround. And if nothing changes, that rebate will be north of $42,000. And so that'll flow back to the city. There's a solar renewable energy certificate, they call it an SREC. It's not worth a lot, but it's another revenue piece. We set that up. That value floats back to the city, and you retain the credit. So the whole thing with the credit market, if you retain the credits, then you can actually clout that you're getting your electricity from a green renewable source of energy, and so you've got that ability to market that at your will. At the end of the day, this is an economic play, and purely economic play. So what you'll see in the contract in front of you, and also what I'll bring Damien up here in a second to talk about, is that this project yields real savings. And so when you look at the avoided cost the first year, you'll see total savings of about $110,000 that's saved by the city the first year. So what you do with that is whatever you do with that, but I'm certain that there's an area that could use that sort of benefit. Every year after also saves. And when you look down the road at about 25 years, which is the model that we have in front of you, you see savings in aggregate of well over $7 million. So these projects are being done all over the country. Recently, we've seen a lot of inroad here into Indiana. We did PSG did 64 projects in the public space last year in 2017, all with this kind of focus in mind. And if you look at the latest jobs report that came out across the country, renewables is really driving new jobs and been a big part of where our economy is headed. So it makes a lot of sense from the economics. So I'll answer any questions that you have about the project.
Explain what means before the meter. Explain that to them.
Yeah, so there's in front of the meter and then there's behind the meter. So when we talk about behind the meter, it's everything on your side of that utility meter, so everything on the facility side. So all of these projects are considered behind the meter projects because you're going to generate and you're going to use that power and it's not going out to the grid. The utility's not getting the benefit of that power. However, you will also be in a net meter contract, which means that anytime you were to overproduce, you can export that power to the grid and you'll get paid a retail rate for the next 15 years of that power. So the way that we like to think about that is we look at these projects and how they perform annually, so across a 12-month period. You're going to overproduce on these projects in the summer, May, June, July, August, September, less in October. And you can call on those credits again in November, December, January, February, March, where the days are shorter and you're just not getting the production that you would. So we design these systems to really balance themselves out through the year. And if somebody says, well, are you doing a front of the meter project? No, the answer is no, because front of the meter means you're providing the benefit to the utility. So you could have a front of the meter project, you could connect it on the front of the meter, and all the power goes to the utility. You don't get any benefit from it. So those are the differences. And this is a self-generation project at each of the facilities, wrapped up into one performance contract. So we're obligating a commercial obligation to produce across the aggregate of all of those sites.
So you're going to state each year, I take it it's a 20-year, that's what they were talking about.
Yeah.
You're going to state what we're going to say, guaranteed savings for 20 years, which is...
You'll see the estimated, and then here's the production. So if we meet that production...
So you're guaranteeing us this. And then if you don't do it, you raise the check.
We cure.
Or so to speak.
I wouldn't want to, so I've been in this for since '92, and I've never had to write that check.
That's good.
And I wouldn't want to do that. So if our systems weren't performing, I would rather put some more solar panels out there or come up with some other solution rather than to every year having to write a shortfall check. But we design these systems to perform If we didn't perform, we wouldn't be here today.
I think one of the questions they have too is, what is it gonna cost us up front?
That's the beauty of this project. Nothing. This is a zero capital outlay. Damien is gonna get up here in a minute and talk about the financing. This falls in line with all the other projects that we've been building in years past, we're building in this year. This works much like an operating lease. Damien can talk about the distinction of leases. But it simply looks at what you're paying now and how we take that arbitrage shift in applying those dollars you're already spending. So nothing is new here. It's dollars you're already spending.
So there's no initial outlay?
There's no initial outlay. That's correct.
I have a question if I may.
Yes.
In reading this, it says retainer fee shall be 5%. Now, is that, if I'm reading this right?
That's retainage.
Yes, retaining.
So
sorry.
retainage, so that's for your benefit. So as we go through the contract, it's a performance billing. So we invoice based on how we perform through the project, and you hold back 5% on us until the end, until we're done, and then we bill. Our final payment is that retainage.
Okay. Thank you.
So we also provide a bond. You'll see in there we provide a payment performance bond, which means that my surety is going to step up and obligate us to perform as well. And if we don't perform, they'll call that bond. And again, I've never had a bond called on me before. So
What's the longevity of the equipment?
40
And we'd be-
years.
40, we would be liable for that? Or-
So the solar panel, let me break that down. The solar panel itself has a life expectancy of about 40 years, but the polycrystalline panels that NASA developed in the 80s are still performing today, well above where they thought that they would get out of the cellular activity level. That's the longest, and that's actually protected under insurance policies. So the material we buy comes with what's called a Power Guard insurance plan. And so 25 years, it's a 25-year policy. 25 years is a long time. If something were to happen to the panels, is that manufacturer going to be solvent? Can they perform any sort of claim? If they can't, you have a policy in place that does cover that. We also have, and then, there's a lot of equipment out here. There's equipment that you see at any of your buildings. There's transformers, right? There's switch gear, there's weather stations. All of that has a variety of warranties and guarantees. But solar panel, these are pretty simple parts. There's nothing that really moves. There's a transformer, there's an inverter, there's a solar panel. Yeah. It's pointed at 180 degree azimuth due south, and it just sits there and performs every day. So nothing has to be greased, there's no gearbox to fix, there's nothing to overhaul. It works very well. I have it at my house and I don't do anything to it. It just provides me a benefit every day.
So nothing that gets outdated in a couple years and we have to upgrade and...
No.
Okay.
No, these are modular systems and they're meant to last for 40 years. So if somebody says, well, I got the new thing for you, well, it doesn't matter because you've already solved that riddle. One of the questions I had was hail. So talk to about when hail comes down. I mean, it's a good question, and we get it a lot. If you look at the Indianapolis airport, I'm sure you've all seen that project. All the hailstorms that have come through this area since the inception of that project, 0 broken panels from hail. These panels are built to handle terminal velocity at 1 inch. So a typical hailstone coming down at terminal velocity will not break the panel. If it does break it, it's under warranty. Okay.
What if it gets blown off?
Well, they're designed for 150 mile an hour wind incident. If they get blown off, then it's an insurance claim. Insurance comes up and takes care of it. And we have them, not just us, the whole market. Hoosiers have them all over the state. And unless there's a tornado or something that comes through and it's hard to build something that's going to withstand something like that. They're pretty resilient. And again, we build them for between 120 and 150 mile an hour. It depends the height of the building, the exposure, or the last year 50-year weather history. It's a redesign to that. That's kind of done in the engineering.
Where does the definition, the act of God, play into this? If we have something, I mean,
Well, it's a performance contract, and where we leave off, insurance picks up. So,
okay.
I mean, even insurance has act of God, but in that, you know,
Yeah, but you gotta pay for it.
I think the carve-outs for the insurance policies around solar have to do with volcanoes and those kind of things that, okay, can happen, but your day-to-day exposure is pretty well covered. Wind is not considered an act of God. A hailstorm is not considered an act of God.
Even a tornado.
What about when we go to replace our roofs?
So the beauty is these are ballasted systems on anything that's flat. So there's no roof penetrations. So if you ever had to move things around, they're movable.
Even like on the Miller building?
So the pitch has got a couple of, they've got little plates that get flashed around. And if you have to re-roof it, it's pretty easy to take the flashing off, re-roof, put the
They
flashing
have
back
to be
on.
removed, or there's not enough room to get under them.
The panels come right off, but you can leave the stands there.
So-
I'd like to
Um,
add to that, that putting the panels on will extend the life of the roof. This is going to start absorbing.
Well, I figured that, but I just didn't know, some of these roofs, I don't know how old they are, will be needing to be replaced, and I doubt they get done before this. I mean,
Everything
I
we've
would.
looked at is pretty good,
Okay.
and I didn't look at it myself.
Did
That's
you have
the
the
way-
any engineering looked at them? Any
We
of the
have.
roof structures and everything?
We haven't looked at everything, but we've looked at.
Because that was, I called 3 facilities that have had you guys in place. One of them hadn't called me back yet, but the Fremont Schools, talked to Dr. Stitt.
Mhm.
He loved it.
Yeah.
He said they just got theirs online in March,
Mhm.
and their last bill was $22,000 a month, went down to $1,000.
Yep.
And he said it's already working.
Yep.
And they're already cash flow positive. And I called Bloomington as well.
Okay.
And I talked to the Autumn.
Yeah.
And that was her concern. She said, obviously everything's not up and running. They've had some engineering issues. She said if there's anything that she would do differently, it was look at the engineering side more up front, because now their cost, some of their roofs were not, they had to be re-engineered, redone, and
Yeah.
she didn't go into detail, but that was one
Well-
thing she advised us to look at.
The detail behind some of that is we should have picked better roofs in many
Well,
cases.
that's inevitable. I mean, that's not my concern. My concern is I want to make sure we don't have to come back and inflate the cost, refinance everything, and
Well, I will tell you, even though we ran through some of that, I mean, these are guaranteed no change orders too, so we didn't change. The cost didn't really go up.
Okay.
For anything that wasn't already there. So, you know, if we add a new building, yeah, there'll be cost for that.
right, I get that. Some of the roofs that we were looking at, the facilities are fairly old.
And we did have, this was the chief of police, we did actively had discussions with the fire stations on the roof and with the city hall.
Yeah, because those are old. I know one is a little older roof. Oh, he's not here. How old is this roof? Did it get redone?
We just started done
Yeah.
last 4 years ago.
Yeah.
Well, it's a good reason to look at some of it too.
And this has been an iterative process. We really appreciate the time
Jim,
of
would you
everyone.
stand up, please, so they
Yeah,
can
sure.
see you on
This
camera?
has been, I've seen an iterative process, so we really appreciate the time of the city. We've come down for a few meetings, a lot of phone calls as well. And we had, I don't have the original site table in front of us, but we did have some roof that switched all the ground mount because of that concern. So we have been taking that into account.
The people I talked to, they loved it.
Yeah.
Bloomington wasn't up and running full yet. I think she said they had some of them running, but
Yeah.
they were anticipating.
I think we're about 85% there.
Yeah, I think that's what she told me. But Dr. Stead, he loved it.
So back to the roof thing, if there does have to be maintenance done to the roofs, do you guys remove the panels, or does the?
We can work with the roofing contractor, absolutely. We'll evaluate that. You end up, it's more of a collaboration with the roofing company, especially for peeling off and then putting back right behind them. So it does cause a little bit more collaboration, but you know, as to what Jennifer was saying, you're removing the UV exposure to your roof. You're extending the life of that, whatever that fabric is, whatever that material is. You're helping your building keep cool because these panels absorb all of the sunlight versus, letting it bounce off. So, if it's a bad roof, and we get up there, let's say we get up on one of these 14 or however many are on the roof, we get up and we see that an area is bad, we may want to address it right there, a patch, an overlay, right,
Yeah.
something, so that we don't have to worry about that. Yeah, but we'll definitely make sure that we look, double check, triple check that before we put it down. Because we'll want to bring that attention to you as well.
And the other question I had on the financing, if this was done in 18, when's the first payment due? He's got 19, but.
So I'll have him go, maybe time to go over the finance now? Yeah.
It'd be a budgeting.
Yeah, I'll tell you what we'll do, we'll go ahead and let him talk, and then we'll take C and D together if you like, so, okay? Okay.
All right, thank you. So, thank you for the opportunity to appear before you. I'm Damian Magos. Got the wrong one. I'm Managing Director for George K. Baum.
I think we have copies of that.
But do you have copies?
It's the same information.
Did you get it today?
Did this one replace this? His is good. They're different, but that's why I know this is good.
Okay. Here,
Okay. Is that,
pass
it
this
should be
down.
dated today.
We'll pass all this down. These are updated. Okay.
Oh, this is.
That has today's date, so we're gonna pass down. Chad will pass it down.
Settle down, Jennifer.
Look at that one, you'll see it's slightly higher.
This is new, okay. I see the date on it now. A lot of people
Yeah,
want to throw
it
me
should be
around.
May 21st.
My bad. Okay.
So, George K. Baum and Company is an investment banking firm. It's a national firm that specializes in public finance. I have been working in Indiana for almost 30 years and specializing in working with communities, financing various projects over that time. What I'd like to do is just present a couple of financing options. This is not by any means cast in stone, but to give you an idea, because you do have options in terms of how to pay the project back. Okay? And so what I'd like to just kind of start with just kind of an economic outlook. On page 2 is, and the reason I bring this up is because the financing rates that I use, I had talked to a couple of companies and banks that specialize in this type of financing, and they peg their rates to the 10-year Treasury. Okay, and so what you have here on page 2 is just a graph of the 10-year Treasury over the last year. And as I'm sure everyone is aware, the Fed has openly stated that they are going to increase rates as a measure to curb inflation. And I just kind of highlighted here over some of the major increases over the last year. The Fed again meets on June 13th. And as of today, it's almost 100% chance that the rates are going to go up by 0.25%. There is even a 25% chance that it may be a 0.5% increase. So just kind of keep in the back of your mind that the rates are kind of pegged to this, to an index, and as you can see, the index is going up. So on page 3, so let's start with looking at a budget and then a couple of different financing options. So page 3 is just a kind of a sources and uses. What are we going to use the funds for? And the first thing, as you can see, is a project construction fund of almost $4.1 million. That is for the solar array over those 13 or 14 different projects that Jamie just outlined. Then there's also a lighting component to it. So you've got the arrays and then some lighting changes for about $250-some thousand, and then financing costs to kind of put everything together. So that gets you a total project of $4.4 million. And there are a couple of different ways to finance this, and one of the things that we always look at when you issue debt or go into some site lease arrangement is you try to match that repayment to the life of the asset. Okay, you're not going to buy computers and pay them over 20 years. Okay. So this project, you had mentioned maybe 40 years, but I think kind of the rule of thumb is that 25-year kind of payback. We're looking at one of the options would be to go out 20 years. And so that is the first on page 4. If we were, and to address your question, so let's say that the board or the council approves and we're able to complete this financing this summer. The project would be built over summer, kind of fall, and I think you had stated that you probably want to be completed by the end of the year. So the first payment would be set for July of next year. So that kind of gives you 5-6 months of savings. And again, remember, this is the payback comes from the savings that your utility costs that you're already incurring. So a financing this summer, first payment next year. Okay, and then for a course of 20 years, you can see today a 20-year rate is probably plus or minus 3.75%. And that would be a fixed financing. And so you can see that the payment stream on the far right is approximately, $324, a little over $324,000. When you take that payment stream, and I think this is what we were looking at, and look at on page 5. This is the cash flow statement that I think everyone's seen, but if we can concentrate kind of on that middle part where you have the avoided cost and then the actual lease payment. And you can see the avoided cost, the lease payment, and we get all the way on the far right-hand side, the total annual savings. So you can see the savings by year, and then finally over that, the course of that 25-year, so you kind of rule of thumb, life expectancy of those panels, even though there have been, they extend over that. You're looking at savings well over, $7,630,000 over the life of those panels. And you can see that the savings kind of increase approximately, I think it was like $20,000 a year, and then finally, out after that 20th year, the project has been paid, and then it's all savings. Here, for the first 20 years, there's some savings and you're paying back, and then finally, it's all savings. So another option is, well, what happens if we were able to repay this back in 15 years? And the reason that I chose that is there are buyers that love, a shorter payback. Yeah. Of course. And so when looking at that 15-year payback, so we've shortened the yield curve, and so the rate goes from a 3.75 to approximately a 3.5 rate. And you can see, now there's something interesting about these, the repayment. It's not quite level, because if it was level, you'd have a higher payment. We've shortened the term, so the payment's going to be a little bit higher. And when you put it into that cash flow, in those earlier years, you have a negative cash flow. And so what we did was kind of ramp up the payments. And if we look at page 7, so when you put it into that cash flow model, Again, you can see, so there's the avoided cost, there's the annual lease payment, and it kind of ramps up for a few years, up, maybe 7, 8 years, and then it kind of levels off at that 400 and some, 432 number. And if you get over to the right-hand side, you can see that we've got minimal savings in those earlier years, and then the savings start, and obviously after 15 years, the savings really kick in. And when you look again over the life of that panel, you're looking at about a little over 8,177,000 as opposed to that 7.6. And so that's just the benefit of paying it off quicker and then starting to realize, again, where before you were, there were some savings, but you were paying back. That's gone, and now it's all savings. So these are just two options. There's nothing set. I think we could take a look and model it, with the treasurer, the mayor, different options, different rates, and see what makes sense. But typically, you're not going to want to go out longer than 20 years. And if there's a way to pay it back, quicker and start realizing the gains of that quicker, then maybe that's another option to take a look at. But that's something that can be. You don't need a decision for that right now.
Does equipment performance play into this? I mean, from like a 20-year to a 15-year?
Equipment performance.
If we get better with our revenue, you understand what I'm saying?
I'm not sure I understand.
It does. It stays flat.
It does? Okay, that's fine.
One of the areas that we're not addressing on here, another area of savings with the LED lighting. So that's in place for the next 100,000 operating hours. So what we're not calculating in here, in all these buildings that we're putting lights in, you don't have to buy any more bulbs or ballasts. So that's a realized savings that we're not calculating.
I'm sorry if you misunderstood my question.
Yeah, no, I don't think that there's a...
That's good. Explain the difference between the lease financing and the actual financing. You've got two options on here. Use the term lease.
This would be a lease finance. This is not a bond issue. This would be a straight out lease financing that would be subject to annual appropriation.
Okay, so it is.
Yeah, this is a lease financing.
So what does that mean when it's over? Anything?
It's a lease transfer. So the asset flows back to the city.
I see, okay.
There's no more legal work you gotta do. It's all in the agreement. You get title after that last payment.
Yeah, again, it's not a bond issue or, where some sort of revenue or income or property or anything like that. It's payable straight from the utility savings.
Is there a cost to, like you said, the ballast and stuff like that? I mean, it's different just screwing in a light bulb, but is there cost? Who pays for that?
It's figured into that project cost, so we'll have, PSG will have crews that'll go through the building and, we'll take one room at a time and we'll do it, overnight or when you're not using the facility, but we'll pull the bulbs out, take the ballast out, put the retrofit kit in there, clean it up. If it's a different style, if you want to go with more of a concave versus what you've got here, we can select those as well. But we've got all the wiring figured in for all of that.
Is that your cost there for the lighting project?
Yes, the 232? Yes.
Does it affect any outdoor lighting?
Yeah, we did an audit, so we looked at the best benefit, highest use, so any, outdoor street lights or, wall packs or, if you've got a 300 or 400 watt bulb, and if we can replace that with a 60 or an 80 watt LED lamp, I mean, that's just straight.
Or parking lot lights
savings,
kind of deal? Okay.
Whatever, the utility owns some of it, and my guys have done the analytics on what you own versus what you don't, and we've looked at all of that.
Okay. Is there any more questions for Warren?
I appreciate your time to explain all that. It's certainly a lot more there than I did this afternoon. Yeah.
Ms. Beth, are you comfortable with all this?
I am. I have worked on this contract for weeks, and they have agreed to every change that I thought was necessary to completely protect the city. Everything that they've told you is exactly as I understand it to be.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, so is this time we want to pick a 20-year or 15-year payback? Is this time we do that, or?
You don't have to.
Okay.
I have prepared a resolution, which you do not have to obviously approve, but you can vote on it, or you can wait and digest this information. I have prepared a resolution for you to approve proceeding with obtaining the lease financing for the contract, with the understanding that the Board of Works today approved the execution of the contract if you approved proceeding with the financial aspects of it.
You want me to, kind of next steps?
Sure,
Just,
absolutely.
Okay, so
Yeah.
if the board, or if the council approves to go through with this financing, so then the next step would be on our end to put together what's known as a term sheet or an offering circular that describes the financing, has some information about the city, about the area, will provide audits, some budgets, and then put together a packet and then send it out to various investors, buyers. And so we would kind of firm up or get, a rates and then firm up the rates. Along with that would be how long they would be willing to hold those rates. And so if everything goes well, we should be able to, within probably 2 to 3 weeks, have a firm rate. And then after that, if the council still wants to continue, we would have financing 2 or 3 weeks later. So you're looking at 4 to 6 weeks, you could actually have funding and start construction.
So passing these tonight would not hold us to it? Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah, you have,
Till
you
get
always
that-
have the option to
Okay.
to back out of, but I think once we,
So does this keep the ball rolling then?
that keeps the ball rolling.
Okay.
But I think, once we take or get back rates from interested buyers, and then if we were to, at that point, select the buyer, that pretty much would lock us in at that point.
And when you sign a contract and they
Yeah.
likewise sign the contract, then you have a binding contract.
Yeah.
Okay.
But until now, we can, just kind of keep going, working on our end, on both ends, to work towards a successful financing. But yeah, you have the option to, at any point.
This may be an unfair question, I just asked you one, but I'm gonna ask it anyway.
Sure.
Have you had the scenario where you gave us that 6 month cushion and we didn't meet our criteria? What happens then as far as the profit? Understand what I'm saying?
In terms of, okay, so we go ahead, start construction, Jamie finishes by the end of the year, payments coming up next year. So we jump forward to, here we are in May of 19, and wait a second, we're behind.
So,
I set it up. I'm sorry, but
so we have a duty to perform, and our duty to perform is highlighted in the contract, so.
okay.
When we perform the generation that we've articulated in the contract, then the savings will be realized.
Either way, if we budget the monies for standard utilities, gonna cover what we already spend.
Yeah.
It was gonna cover that payment anyway.
That's a good point, and I actually wanted to make a couple of just maybe closing points, and that is, Damien talked about the interest increases that are bound to happen. That's going to make a big difference in the payment and a bigger difference in the savings model. So something to think about with that. And then the other side of it, the sooner that we can get a lot of these projects online, the sooner you start to realize those savings, the sooner you start to build those credits, the better off, the better position that you're in January, right?
That's what.
And that has been our point all along.
If we vote for this tonight, then after all the rate is determined and all that, does it come back to us for another vote and approval of that? Or is it out of our hands at that time?
No, Damien will present a contract for the council to vote on and execute. A financial contract.
So I would advise you to execute the financial agreement and the guaranteed energy savings contract simultaneously. You don't want to be bound to one contract and then have the other one fall through, so you want to execute, and by execute I mean the city signs and then the other party signs. You want to execute those contracts at the same time. Yes.
Which, is there an advantage to us voting on this now or waiting until the...
Well, you may want, you just want to vote on approving proceeding with it.
To
Yes.
proceed, we're not really locking ourselves in for anything, we're just giving the okay to
Yes.
proceed with the attempt to finance.
Is that the resolution you prepared?
Yes, it is.
So yeah, what we would do then is, like I said, put together the offering circular and send it out to investors, and then come back again with a rate. And then at that point, thumbs up or thumbs down, and then you would enter into a contract with the purchaser. And that would lock in the financing.
So is this one meeting that we should have a Board of Works and the council meet at the same time to enact?
Is that how?
Beth?
Maybe, yes.
Okay.
But at that point, you can decide
Okay.
Whether you want to or not.
The Board of Works will have to approve it for us anyway, right?
Yeah, well, I'm saying if we would have a joint meeting where we pass ours and then you pass.
Well, the Board of Works has already approved, Mayor, you're signing that contract, so long as council approved going ahead and proceeding with trying to get the financing. So they've already actually done that.
Okay.
Yeah,
So we
this
have-
doesn't lock you into,
Anything, so we actually have,
when you actually sign the contract with the actual purchaser,
we actually have the final
then
approval at that
that pretty
time.
much locks into financing. Right now, we're just gonna get ready for the financing.
Because it's
And all of
subject,
these costs, again, are paid if there's a financing.
and it's subject to being able, I mean, we're probably reasonably sure that we can, but it's subject to being able to provide the financing.
Exactly, yeah.
Yes.
I just want to reiterate a little bit, because it's a lot to swallow, a big chunk of money. It's not every year that you buy a fire truck, or even a trash truck, or lots of police cars, but you are inevitably going to pay electric bills. So you're just sort of reappropriating this money in a different way.
Exactly. That's exactly right.
And obviously LED, is the way of the future.
Well, we've had a renewable energy department for about 17 years. A lot of this work has been out west. And I think as Jamie said, it's finally kind of come across, what's interesting though, airports use, well, one, they have a lot of land.
Right.
And number two, they want a separate power source as a security measure. And so they have their own power source. And that's why you see it a lot in airports. But it's coming into, we did, I don't know how many school projects in municipalities in Indiana are finally starting to see the benefits of, solar.
What's Duke think of this? What does Duke Energy think of this?
They actually like
Great
it.
partners.
They've been a very good partner. I will say that Duke is probably one of the most progressive inline utilities out there. I would say that if they were in the room. I think where we run into resistance, generally speaking, is when you get into the smaller REMCs. They're just, the rural electrical co-ops just aren't equipped to handle it. But Duke has got several initiatives with solar, and this project definitely feeds into those initiatives. And we would want to cloud, you would want to cloud Duke as being a partner on the project, and they would like that.
Not putting them in business or anything.
They're a pretty big company.
Just a tad.
Pretty big company.
Okay, is there any more discussion for them? Now entertain a motion to pass item C and D, approval of the financing of a solar energy contract and the energy lease financing option.
Can you read the do you have the resolution there?
I do, and I just wrote on it to make it a little more clear, so later I'll give you a clean copy. It's actually it's a page long, but I can read the entire thing if you'd like, that's no problem.
Yeah.
Okay. Whereas the Board of, and this is called Resolution for Approval to Proceed with Lease Financing for Guaranteed Energy Savings Contract. Whereas the Board of Public Works of Connersville, Indiana previously sought the submission of qualifications from firms interested and capable of providing comprehensive energy management and capital improvement services for the City of Connersville in accordance with Indiana Code 36.1.12.5 concerning guaranteed savings contracts and energy efficiency programs for use by the City of Connersville. And PSG Energy Group of Indianapolis, Indiana is the only firm who responded to the city's request for qualifications. Whereas the goal of the City of Connersville is to reduce energy consumption and demand while improving infrastructure and minimizing expenses, operational and maintenance costs for the city to save money. Whereas the Common Council of the City of Connersville finds that PSG Energy Group is fully qualified to install and maintain solar energy panels that will result in significant cost savings and provide long-term benefits to the City of Connersville. City Council further finds that the firm has adequate financial resources and technical experience gained from similar projects. Whereas the proposed guaranteed energy savings contract is in proper form and execution of the contract by the mayor as executive of the City of Connersville has been approved and authorized by the Board of Public Works. City Council desires to approve and authorize the City of Connersville to enter into negotiations and agreements to finance the contract. Now therefore be it resolved by the Common Council of the City of Connersville, Indiana, that the mayor of the City of Connersville has been authorized to sign and execute the guaranteed energy savings contract, a copy of which is attached to this resolution, with PSG Energy on behalf of the city. The executive and clerk treasurer are likewise authorized to proceed with negotiations for financial transactions associated with the contract/lease agreement.
That's exactly what I said. You believe that, Gabe?
I say no. What's the resolution number?
I don't know. I always leave that blank and let Rosemary fill that
It
in.
would be 31.
Yes, let's see, did we just pass 30?
30.
I have one more question. Say like the 20-year, so we're gonna assume that that is probably gonna be more like on the terms of 4%?
Right, as of today,
3 points,
3 3/4 is still a good rate.
okay. But would we be locked into that, or
No, that is.
because of June
you will not-
13th coming up pretty soon?
I'm sorry?
Because June 13th is coming up pretty soon.
Yeah, I mean, there's a
It's
possibility
Probably.
that,
Most probably it's gonna be 4%.
I don't, I couldn't,
Can't say that.
Point
just
25.
because the Fed increases a quarter doesn't mean that there is it's not a
Oh, okay.
like to like.
Okay.
The market is already building in. If you look at, if you were to look at that 10-year, you could see it towards that, on page 2, there's this little spike that happened in the last week. That's as talk is that it more likely is there's going to be an increase. So the market is building in a increase. But as of today, that 3 3/4 is still a good rate.
And we think that if we do our jobs quickly and give you the ability to make a decision in good time, that rate will be good.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's never this goes up a quarter, this goes up a quarter.
Okay.
But if this goes up, more than likely, this goes up. And that's
Okay, Beth, so do we pass C and D and then resolution 31?
If you, well,
That
D
is-
is just informational, so you would want to approve the proceeding with the financing option. That would be C.
Okay.
So that resolution deals with C.
Yes.
Mr. Mayor, I move to accept resolution 2018-31.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to pass resolution 2018-31. Is there any more discussion? If not, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign?
Probably should take that roll call.
Yeah, should be a roll call for that.
Okay, we'll do a roll call. Roll call, Shelley.
Okay. Councilman Frank?
Aye.
Councilman Bishop?
Aye.
Councilman Nobby?
Aye.
Councilwoman Montgomery?
Aye.
Councilwoman Phillips?
Aye.
And Councilwoman Durham?
Yes, aye.
Okay, passed 6-0, so.
So I'm going to
we
pass
proceed.
this down the line for everybody to sign, and then Shelley can have that for Rosemary.
Okay.
How long will it be before you be coming back to us, approximately?
We hope to have something in order the first 5 or 6 days, maybe 10 days in June.
Okay, that's great.
So you'll be ready for like the, I don't know what day
Is it June 4th?
see, June 4th is the first Monday, so like the 18th? That'd be our,
If not before, we're gonna shoot for the earlier date,
okay,
so we can just keep well ahead of any interest rate adjustment.
okay.
Yeah, that would be good.
That sounds like a plan there.
Thank you all for the presentation, it's very good.
Yes, it was very,
You know there's a lot to observe, so I gave you all one of my cards, so feel
Yes.
free to reach out. I can answer any questions you have.
Just real quick, how long has your company been in business?
PST's on its 3rd year. I've been in business since '92.
And you're out of Indy, correct? Is that what you said?
Okay, go on down, I guess I'm done with that. Go on down to old business. We got any old business come before the council? Okay, I'm gonna go on down to miscellaneous business. Of course, I think everybody's heard by now that Beth has given up her position as city attorney. And just want to let everybody know, and I will miss her. But we have a new guy stepping on. David, would you stand up? This is going. David is graciously accepted to be the city attorney. Beth's going to give him a crash course. And so the next meeting, David will be setting up there. Welcome, David.
Thank you.
And so Beth will be on for another 10 days.
Yes.
But I think if you give her a call, her and David will work pretty good together. So.
For the camera, can you give his last name?
Huh?
For the camera, can you give his last name?
Dave Butch?
For the camera, so everyone knows.
Oh, Dave, can you come up? Come up. You gotta get in the camera. They want you on camera. They want your picture.
just the first of May.
All right. Now, you got anything you'd like to say, David?
No. I didn't expect this.
Okay.
I just want people to see you, know your
Okay,
name. So.
thank you.
All I knew was David.
I do have a question for both of you, actually. We have a negotiation scheduled for the 30th.
She's going to.
I'm going to do that.
She's staying.
Will
for
he
that.
also be there?
I'm going to speak
I
to
think
him
that'd be
about
great.
everything with the contract, and I may actually conclude those negotiations myself.
Okay.
So,
Okay. So, has anybody got any questions for David? Since he's already sat down. All right. Okay. I'll go on and miscellaneous I'll go on down the public forum. Connie, you got something you want to do?
Yeah. Well, I just want to take a quick minute, and she doesn't know this, so. We have a citizen of Connersville that's getting ready to leave us. And if you'll come up front.
You might want to announce her name.
Well, her name is Peggy Rowland.
Okay.
And I'm not going to say how old she is because I want to remain her friend. But she's getting ready to go to Tucson, Arizona to live with her daughter. And be close to her family. And I just wanted to publicly say that we're going to miss her.
Yes, we will.
Connersville's been her home forever. She has a lot of friends here, and she's fought it for so long. And so that she doesn't forget us, I'm going to give her a pin of Connersville.
She better not forget us.
And she's been a good citizen of Connersville, involved in politics for a long time, very supportive to a lot of people up here. She has lots of friends, and I'm still lucky to be one of them.
And I've never seen her hush for words.
You better hush. Don't forget.
I know, Peggy.
I can say this much for Peggy from my personal standpoint. There is not a better person in this world because I worked with her for over 30 years at the plant, and you could depend on her. And if she had a problem, you better listen to her because she meant business, but she was always right. I wish you the best and God bless you.
Thank you.
Tell your wife I love her too. Okay. I will do that.
Thank you, Peggy.
Thank you, darling.
And if anybody cares, I'm 90 plus.
We're gonna miss you. Yes.
Thank you, Connie.
Okay, is there any, this is the public forum, anybody got anything they'd like to speak about? If not, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second. We have a motion second to adjourn. All in favor, signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Adjourn.